Hey, world. This is the Shake Up with Dr. Kid again. You know what time it is. It's 6 Central Standard Time where we are. And we're on here with the Shake Up. Ain't nobody else doing the Shake Up. This thing is something that my team came up with, and we just enjoy this. You know why? As I say, if you let it sit, all the good stuff's going to settle at the bottom. But when you shake it up, the whole thing becomes mixed and there's no telling how good it can taste. And so we take that same attitude towards relationships. If you let your relationship just kind of just sit there and do nothing, it will settle to the bottom. And when something's settled, it's hard to get some movement and traction out of it. As a matter of fact, just listening this evening about the hurricane that's coming that went through California. We just need to pray for those folks over there too, because a lot of relationships have been destroyed, some irreparable. It's just a lot of stuff that we're going through. So I don't want to just start out this thing and not just recognize that there are those that are not as fortunate as we are right now. And so we just need to pray for them and also keep the people in Hawaii, Maui. They're saying that there are still hundreds of people that have not been accounted for. And so each of those persons that are not been accounted for, they are related to somebody in Hawaii or somewhere else around the world. And so we have a lot of hurting people that, now. And so I just want to recognize that and just pray that the Lord will help to bring healing to everybody, and for people that are still missing, that somehow closure can come into their lives. Okay, so we will just continue to pray for them and just hope that somehow the Lord will help them to work their way through this. But until then, we're going to carry on with our Shake Up right now. We do have a good show for you tonight. We have a returning person. He was so good the last time, and he has got some dynamic piece of information to share with us today. But listen, we just want to continue to grow. And so if you're going to grow, I wasn't going to ask you to like this thing, like it, follow, share, and subscribe. As a matter of fact, even right now while I'm going through this commercial section, I want you to get on your phone, tell somebody that they are missing one of the greatest podcasts on the planet. It's called The Shake Up with Dr. Kit. We don't mess around. This is not people putting their stuff out on the side of the road. We have qualified people to talk about specific issues. We have people who want to come on and share their personal information. You can be on camera or you can be off camera. So if you would like to be a part of this show, if you would like to be a part of this, and all you got to do is basically get in touch with my team, and they will get you in the queue. So do that. We'd love to hear from you. We want everybody to be a part of this. Okay, so if you consider, just check with my team. Go to drkitspeaks@gmail.com, and they will accommodate you and facilitate you so that you can be a part. So you can basically tell your story. When you tell your story, it can never be wrong. Why? Because you're talking about your experience, not a novel. All right. Okay. So enough of that. All right. Oh, and I do want to let you know that we are having on September 24th. September 24th. Here we go. The Rest Stop. This is a part of our tour, the Rest Stop, part of our tour. And this particular Rest Stop is called Refueling Your Relationship. And we take it off of the imagery that, listen, if it works, it's going to consume energy. If it consumes energy, you got to refuel it. I don't care what it is. So the refueling process is always going on. When you eat and you're hungry, you refuel. Your car runs out of gas, you refuel. Don't fly in an aircraft that don't have fuel because you won't get off the ground or come back down too soon. You refuel. So you refuel, refuel, refuel. And that's what we'll be doing September 24th, Atlanta, Georgia. And it doesn't matter if you're a married couple or seriously engaged or just, or even for singles, if you want to come and understand what it's like. You got a kind of a precursor as to how do I need to position myself so that when I get serious and deep into this relationship that I'm contemplating, I need to know how to refuel myself so that I can be a part of the refueling system and process in the relationship. All right. And so now we got somebody good. He's been on before, like I said. He's a good guy. So I just want you to help me to welcome Q. And he's got some good stuff. I don't want to take his thunder away because the people are going to say I'm stealing on this show. So what's up, Q? I'm going to get you to do like you did the last time, man. Tell us about yourself and then tell us what you want to tell us and then tell us. How about that?
Well, praise God. I want to first off thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Kit. And like you mentioned, I go by Q, or my name is LaQuace Jackson, and I'm an individual born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm actually a financial services professional. I've been in the industry now coming up on to be 6 years in March, and today, just a little bit more background on myself. I've been married we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, me and my wife, last Thursday, as a matter of fact, Friday, 8/18/19. And I'm in Washington right now, but I'm excited. We got a lot of good information today. And like he said, like one of the focal points is going to be really why finances is so important in marriage and being proactive when it comes to finances. And that means something different for everybody, right? I just want to kind of throw some stuff out there, some good information that people don't think about or they don't take into account from a financial perspective, and just deal with some day-to-days on what I come into contact with when I'm sitting down with people. What I specialize in helping people with is 3 phases of life: protection, accumulation, and distribution. Now, some people might not know what that is. And for those that don't, we're finna break it down right now, right?
Break it down, man. Break it down.
Absolutely, Dr. Kit. The protection phase is saying, hey, look, God forbid, if you're married and you have 3 kids, let's say, right? Or even if you're married and you just simply have a spouse, you got a mortgage, you got car notes, you got student loans. What happens if one of you guys walk out of that door, you go to your 9 to 5, and you don't come back? Well, a lot of people would say, well, I got a policy at work. I got life insurance at work.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not even realize what their employer provides. And not just that, they might not even realize how much the coverage is or how it works if they change employers. So let's just focus on that for a minute real fast. From protection stage, protection is simply saying, hey, look, if you don't come back, how is your income going to remain in your household for your spouse? Because guess what, Dr. Kit, we finna get deep with this thing. Let's say that the breadwinner is making, I don't know, $150,000, and their spouse is making, I don't know, maybe $45,000 or $50,000. The breadwinner is paying a house note that is $2,600 a month, and their spouse is only paying the electric bill that's $300 a month. Well, now she's supposed to magically come up with $2,600 every month to pay the house note if he doesn't come back. That's the first phase, protection. Having something in place for the unexpected. Student loans, like I said, car notes, house notes, kids, child's education. Some of us, we have children that go to private school, things of that nature, okay? That's phase 1, protection. We're going to touch back on that later on as well. Now, second phase is accumulation. How am I going to make money while I'm alive? And what things can I do that are safe to make money while I'm alive? Okay. And then the third phase, distribution. How am I going to ensure that I don't run out of money in retirement once I've stopped working? Okay. And so this is all going to tie together from a standpoint of why is it so important to have these things in order when it comes to relationships? Well, guess what? I think it's time for a little fun fact, Dr. Kit.
Do it. Do it, man.
Let's
Listen,
get a
man.
little bit deeper. This is something that
Hey,
anybody can
man.
Google. You know, this is information that's out there, but some people just might not know, right?
Yeah.
According to the Humanist Law Firm, in a 2022 study, it says 20 to 40% of all marriages end in divorce over money or financial problems. So let's break that down. That means for every 10 marriages that end in divorce, 4 of them are over finances.
Ooh.
There's
Ouch.
something there. There's something there, you know?
Yeah.
And so let's just kind of focus on that for a little bit. Like a lot of times, like we look at, we hear about this, you know, a lot of us, our faith is Christians, you know, and, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times we may see couples that have been together for countless years, you know, 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, you know, whatever the case is. If 4 out of 10 marriages are ending over finances, then that lets me know something. That lets me know that maybe just perhaps everyone isn't being proactive. We all might not have the right information, you know? Now, not to get too deep in the weeds, now let's break this down and dissect this a little bit further. And then after that, I know you're going to want to jump in and do what you do. But check this out. Let's dissect this a little bit further, okay? The number one cause for and reason for divorce in America is 75% is lack of commitment, also known as lack of communication. This is stuff you already know. I know I'm not telling you nothing that you don't already know.
But just go ahead, man. Go ahead.
But people need to hear this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so rewinding back, I've come across individuals in my own practice that so many different life. I got stories for days. But one of the number one things I realize is when I'm sitting down with people, I'm helping them plan for their future. Some of these questions they never ask themselves. They never say, "Hey, baby, how much coverage do you have at work pertaining to life insurance?" "Oh, I don't know. I got 2 times my salary." "Hey, baby, you know, I know you just applied for the other job that's down the street. What happens to your coverage while you're going through 2 weeks before you get that job that they tell you've gotten?" "Well, I don't know. I think I'm covered." You think you're covered. If something happens to you, 9 times out of 10, the policies at work aren't portable. So guess what that means? You can't take that coverage with you. Not unless the company has a voluntary benefits company in place. So guess what? God forbid if something does happen, it goes back to the example I just gave earlier. You just left your wife that's making $30,000 now have to magically come up with money that she doesn't have. And I'll say something here before I get a little bit even more in depth. One of the biggest misconceptions about being financial literate, or however you want to call it, and planning ahead from a financial perspective is that it's going to cost a lot of money.
Listen, Q. I know it's going to cost a lot of money to do that, but hey, listen. But I was just wondering, you know, that somewhere in all of that, I was wondering if they would have talked about that stuff like from way up front about the coverage. Show me the paperwork. What's it going to look like so that they can plan on the inevitable, because it will happen at some point. But the question is, we don't know when and how it's going to affect us. Go ahead, man. Go on. I just wanted to just drop that.
No. You that's a great question. Great feedback. So check this out. I'll tell you something that's funny.
Yeah.
So I worked at a company for 9 years, right? Right out of high school. I worked at a company, like I said, I'm from Huntsville, Alabama originally. Worked at a telecommunications company out in Research Park. Okay.
Yeah.
True story. I go over my benefits. I know this, but the average person that's like around 19 years old, they're not going to keep track of this stuff, right?
Right.
And I'm 35 now. Just see a couple of gray hairs in there.
Hey man, you need to quit lying, man. On the air, you're gonna tell us about you don't know the day over.
But check this out, Doc. Seriously though. So I noticed something though. When I left there in 2015 and I transferred over jobs, I knew personally that I had $100,000 in place that would go to my mom and my dad, God forbid if something happened to me. I left there to go and work at another company during the time, right? A pharmaceutical company. And I just got to thinking, like I was sitting in the parking lot, I'm like, hey, nobody reached out to me about my coverage I had on my policy. And this is the transitional period where I'm in that 2-week period before I start this other job. And I'm like, so I called them. I called the company based out of Chattanooga, not going to name drop. And I asked them one question. I said, hey, look, if something happens to me, God forbid, where's the coverage at that I have in place at AdTrend? They asked me one question. They said, are you still an employer at the company I just named? And I said, no, I'm at another company now. It's like, okay, well, you no longer have that coverage with us. This is a slap in the face because there's a lot of people out here that don't even realize that when they leave, you lose that unless the company has a volunteer benefits company in place. Getting back to your original question that you said, though, like you can go over all this information. They review that one time unless you make a point to go to HR and find out what you have. They call it open enrollment. I'm sure all of us are familiar with that process. Some people's companies, they do it in October. Some people do it in November. It's just based off the company you at, right? But when they do that and they sit down, most of the time, and I'm married, like I said, people are just trying to get through the benefits. Okay, hey, baby, you think we need vision? You think we need dental? Hey, what they giving you on life? Just get the cheapest. We got to stop doing that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you do your family a disservice when you do that. If your employer is going to provide coverage for you while you're there, please take advantage. If it's $1.38 and they're going to give you 2 times your annual salary, perfect. But guess what? Get something outside of there. I'm going to tell you why. You never want all your eggs in one basket and tied to one entity. I sit down with people every day. Their life changes. If I talk to, let's say I talk to 15 people over the course of a week, I guarantee if I ask them, hey, look, did everything go exactly the same throughout the course of from Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the next week? Nah, man, this week I was assigned a different thing at work. So people's like, oh, man, we just had a baby. Oh, man, we just bought a house. When you have life changes, your insurance needs change as well, Absolutely.
Yeah, so you just said something there, So they have a baby. Now, baby comes home from the hospital. Now, mother and father are insured. They have some coverage, right? How do we cover that baby, that newborn baby, 2 days old, fresh out the box, just coming home? At what point can you legitimately cover that baby, for benefits? Can you answer that?
Absolutely. So in most cases, you have to wait at least 16 days for a baby to be living. And what I mean by that is, after it's born, I'm sure we would want to say, hey, look, this baby's healthy. But sometimes you have parents that have what you call stillbirth babies. And that can be, it's kind of unfortunate because the child wasn't born as healthy as a normal baby would be. And so for certain criteria like that, some companies even allow the parents to have to wait 5 years for coverage if there are certain health conditions when that child is born. But let's say you got a healthy baby, I say around 16 days. And like I said earlier, this is information that you guys can look up on your own and validate. In addition to that, you want to wait on a Social Security card to be in. That's probably why they say around 16 days. Think about it, because you have to have a Social Security number on the baby before giving them coverage. But and let me touch on, thank you, God. He just gave me this. I'm glad you asked about that, though, right? It's something that seems so simple. So when it comes to covering newborns and children in general, I tell people the best thing that you could ever do for your child is get them a life insurance policy at a young age, a whole life policy. Why is that? Because, oh man, I'm finna get hyped. All right, I'm trying to stay calm. All right. Why is that, Q? Why do I need to get my child a whole life policy when they're a newborn baby? They're the healthiest they're ever gonna be. The risk of them dying is really minimal. Correct. That's exactly why you need to do it. Because guess what? That price is gonna stay the same their entire life. You're gonna accumulate a cash value while you're alive that you can borrow from later on, by the way. And the death benefit, God forbid, if something does happen 50 years down the road, it's not going to stay the same. It's going to grow. What grandparents do, I found, is even purchase them on their grandchildren for the same exact reasons that I said. And then guess what? When the child turns 18, they might give them a little 18-year-old birthday present. Here
All
you go,
right,
baby.
and
This
yeah.
is what you had in your life insurance policy. Oh, wow,
Mhm.
I had this much money. I had this many thousands of dollars. You're absolutely right. It's a gift that keeps on giving, I like to tell people. Little things. This and let me kind of put this in perspective. Every company is different, right? But you can literally get a policy on a kid, a $50,000 policy for less than $30. But it's going to pay its weight in gold long term.
Mhm.
And another reason, this is what people don't account for. Your health can always change. This baby might be
Right,
healthy
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Lock it in while they're healthy. Why? Because if something does go south, then at least they're insured and now they're not uninsurable. You've already been proactive on the front end to guess what? Prevent measures from happening and going left on the back end. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, you know, so here we go. Let's,
Great question. I'm going to
you know,
answer it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
great question. Do life insurance policies grow tax free? Thank you
I
for
love
that
it. I love it. I
for that
love it. So let me
question.
kind of,
You know,
let me go in a little bit on
yeah,
this.
yeah. What's your response to that?
So if you have a policy like Whole Life,
Yeah.
that policy is going to grow tax deferred, but you can take it out tax free. You can take that money out tax free. And when I say grow tax deferred, let me kind of just clarify that. That means that Uncle Sam has already gotten his money out of that. When you borrow from yourself, that's tax free. A loan that you don't necessarily have to pay back. We're a mutual company, right? The company that I've aligned my practice with. And so let's say, for example, a person wants to take, I don't know, let's say they want to take $5,000 out of their policy.
Right.
Okay. And you pay yourself back at 5% interest. It's $250. Okay. Or just add on another payment of $25 on your regular payment. But guess what? It's like you're borrowing money from yourself. Now, if you take out all of that money out of the policy and it's exceeded the cost basis, then, and you say, I no longer want the life insurance, then it becomes a taxable event because the money that you're borrowing is no longer tied to the life insurance. That's called surrendering a policy. But when you're just borrowing from it, it's just a loan. Just pay yourself back or let the dividends pay it back for you, you know?
Yeah. I don't know much about insurance, but I like the idea, grandparents being able to take out a pot. Not, but here's a question though: if parents take out a policy on a baby, can grandparents take out another policy on the same baby?
Absolutely.
Oh,
and
so you can have 2 or 3 people taking out a policy on the same person?
Absolutely. As long as they have, let me clarify this.
All right.
As long as they have what you call an insurable interest. So, for example, a lot of times, man, and I sit down with so many different people. A lot of times, a person, an auntie, an aunt, she might have to take in her sister's child, because something happened to the sister. The sister passed, God forbid. And now she has legal guardianship, right? Let's say the mom had a policy on that child, but now the aunt does. Well, guess what? The aunt is now the legal guardian. So you still got the policy in place that the mom had. Now you got the policy that the sister had. Guess what? If the grandma wants to take out a policy on that child, she can too. As long as, now it gets kind of tricky, not really tricky, but when it comes to ownership, that just has to be justified by the insurable interest that I mentioned before. I can't say, hey, look, hey, I got a cousin named Maurice. Maurice, let me take out $100,000 on you, man. Get a policy in case something happened to you. They're gonna kind of red flag that and be like, well, Q, why do you need to take out $100,000 policy on your cousin Maurice? And so there are certain stipulations and things of that nature, but yeah.
Okay, so let me just push that a little further then. Let's say something happens and there's a grandmother who is taking care of a grandchild or a number of grandchildren, but she does not have the financial viability to just basically take care of the children, let alone take out an insurance policy. Now, could I, as a friend of grandmother, say, listen, Miss Jones, is it okay? Because I know you're going to be raising these children because you are now legal guardian of these children, for the next X number of years until they go to college, whatever it is. Would you mind if I take out an insurance policy you know, on these children or on this one child. Now, is that something that can be done?
So let me clarify again. It goes back to the insurable interest. There's a way. Let me clarify. So let's say, for example, the lady that has the heart for the child, she's not no relative or anything, but she wants to make sure that the kid is taken care of because she doesn't want the financial burden to fall upon the auntie or the friend, right? So she can be the payer on that policy, and she would just simply make the guardian the owner on the policy. If the owner, and it kind of goes back to what you said, the owner, let's say that they don't have the means to pay for the policy, they can still be the owner but not pay a dime and just have someone else be the payer. Okay, we do that every day, and that kind of helps people too, because a lot of times the person might be going through a rough patch financially, you know, and so it gives them a way and a workaround to do that and make sure that they're taken care of.
Oh, okay, man, that's some good information. So listen, so how does, you know, the first part, what was that again? The three parts.
Remind me. Three parts. So when I sit down with people, we go over protection, accumulation, and distribution.
Okay.
Protection. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So now the protection, you are protecting them against what? Exactly what are you protecting them against? How does that impact, say, the relationships between spouses?
Oh man.
How do they come to the point of agreement on something about the protection? Because you would say, well, listen, there are some maybe make 150 grand a year, and somebody else maybe making 45, 50 a year. So how do we then, these spouses, how do they reconcile that and decide that, hey, this is what we need to do? You know, so how would you talk through some couples out there who may need that kind of information from you?
Oh man,
without disrupting their relationship.
No. That's I love that question, Dr. Kidd. What I do, man, what I strive to do is I meet people where they're at, right? Okay. When I sit down and I take a person through a process, we do a thorough, what we like to call financial needs analysis. Okay. And this is the thing. The reason why I want to meet with both of them in most cases is because even though they're going to make the decision collectively, let's say there's ultimately sometimes one person that's the decision maker and the other one's not. Let's say one person is interested in this. They know that they need it. And they're giving me this and, hey, yeah, Q, I'd love to meet with you. And we sit down and I go over everything. And then they say, hey, man, let me run this by my wife. Or it's the wife and she says, hey, let me run this by my husband. When I have both of those individuals there, I'm laying the foundation down. We're going over budgets. We're going over assets. We're going over liabilities. We're going over, and all this is relative to the protection phase. We're making sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and curving our S's for the unexpected. Why? And what am I saying? What's the purpose of going over assets and liabilities? We're going over checking accounts, savings accounts, everything, right? Because look, once again, going back to it, if this person doesn't come back home, is this person that's beside them going to be better off, or are they going to be worse off? You know, which one is it going to be? And so I kind of paint that picture once we're going through this. And you'll always have, sometimes you'll have a lot of people on the same page, but sometimes you don't. So to answer your question, when it's somebody that I kind of feel like they might not really be bought in or know the importance, or just not have anybody explain it to them, I kind of want to pick their brain. I want to understand why, so I can fulfill that need. And what I mean by that is, I say, man, I don't think I need that much. Okay, got you. So let me ask you something. Goes right back to what I said. How old is your youngest child? My youngest child, he's 8. Got you. And you got a mortgage, right? Yeah, man, we got a mortgage. Got you. Okay, perfect. You planning your kids going to school? Yeah, man, they both gonna go to college. Okay, praise God. Let's go over question number 1. If the child is 8, how long do you think that income needs to remain in the household if he leaves out and he doesn't come back home? If I just randomly ask you, Dr. Kidd, what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, if one of us don't come back, I mean, that income, however we're going to get it legitimately, needs to be there in the household to support the needs of the family to provide a cushion for now and a perspective moving forward.
Right. You get it. But let's say, for example, this person, because this happens every day, they just don't get it. I'll ask him that, right? And he'll say, I don't know, maybe a couple of years. Sometimes you gotta be straightforward. People say, hey, look, how long do you plan on being dead? Then I just shut up. And I hate to go there, but it's like, it's out of love because I'm so passionate about this. I'm so passionate about this because guess what? You know, I've seen it. I've lost loved ones of mine. You know, I've had to deliver death plans. So now it's like, it's no censor, there's no filter. Oh, how long you plan on being dead? How long? What do you mean? How long I plan? Like after 2 years of your income, like you just said, are you going to come back and magically start back working? like you're not, right? So, yeah, I know it. I'm just being real. So it's like, if you're not going to come back and start back working, let's fill that gap and make sure that if the child is 8, then you at least have 10 years of income in. Why 10, Q? Because guess what? He's going to be 18. Then he'll be able to work for himself or go off to school or do whatever he needs to survive. And you're leaving your wife in a position to make sure that he's taken care of, especially if you want to pay for that private school, especially if she wants to now pay for that mortgage that I mentioned. Oh, especially if you want to pay for him to go off to college or whatever the case is. Oh, especially if you have that $30,000 vehicle outside and you still got $25,000 left on the other one. You need to make sure that you're being proactive on the front end. And so I just give them tough love, Dr. Kit, to answer your question. And you know what I'm learning is people appreciate that. Sometimes people need for you to just tell them to them how it is. And a lot of times people are never challenged on what they know they need to do. And sometimes people know what they need to do. They just need a little shove. They just need to say, hey, look, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, well, I'm glad we're having this conversation. You know, it's something to think about now, you know? And so.
Okay, Ellen G. All right. All this information is great, but what do you do when you have a spouse who feels that the money is mine and yours is yours? Ooh.
Oh, man. Hey, we're going to have to be careful with this, Doc. Oh, man.
Listen, I'm glad you're the one that's answering this question, okay?
Oh, you're going to put it on me? Okay, okay.
You're a professional at this, man. You go ahead and take it away.
I love it. So kind of going back to it, Miss Ellen G. Let's read that one more time. All this information is great, but what do you do when you have a spouse who feels that money is mine and yours is yours?
Thanks, Ellen G. Great question. Great question.
Absolutely. What I try to do is go back to what I originally said. I meet the person where they're at and I try to understand. And if it's just something that I feel is not, for lack of a better word, logical. And what I mean by that is every couple is set up different, right? Every relationship is set up different. Some couples that I sit down with, they might have their own bank accounts. Some couples that I sit down with, they might have joint accounts, right?
Right.
If I'm dealing with somebody that said, hey, my money is my money, I just simply ask them, hey, man, look, do you love your spouse? Like, do you love your family? Like, is this $13 for this $250,000 is it gonna break the bank? I just kind of really come to them from a genuine place. Now, because if they can't, this, oh man, thank you, God, he just gave me this. Because this is the thing. If they can't see the value, then that's a different conversation. Because you know what I realized, Dr. Kit? Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. And when value exceeds cost, the price is no longer an issue. I'm going to let that simmer for a minute to the people that are watching this. So my money is my money. When I'm sitting down with the people like that, I just got to level with them and say, hey, look, the money that you're paying on this is making sure that your family's taken care of. I know you're not going to sit in front of me and have agreed to meet with me and basically say, hey, forget my family. Because you can't put a price on making sure that your family's taken care of. And I might get as passionate as I am right now. So I hope I answered that for you, Ellen G, the best way I could.
Listen, let me ask you this then. How do you go from our kids to my money? This is our kids. And listen, let me push it a little bit further. I have had people that say, listen, my wife is pregnant, or the wife may say, I am pregnant, but we are having, but this is our child. After the child is delivered, go from she's pregnant, singular, to our child, plural. It's the same kind of thing. How do you go from my money to our kids? I think there's some, I'm trying to understand that. Maybe you can help me with that.
Like that. I see what you're saying. Like that transition, right?
Right.
That pivot. What does that pivot look like? I'm going to go back to it. I try to understand, where is this basis of the way you think? Where is that coming from? So I might ask a little bit more questions. Okay, like, hey, look. So like, how can I put it? When you go out and you work, who are you working for, brother? Well, I work at so-and-so, I do this. Right. What's your why? Why are you going and punching the clock every day? Well, make sure my family's taken care of. Pause. Oh, so you want to make sure that your family's taken care of. That's all I need to hear. Because if you genuinely want to make sure that your family's taken care of, that conversation that we just had, Dr. Kit, that my money is mine and these are our kids. That's a conflict of interest if you're saying the money is mine, but these are our kids. The money, it might, you may have earned the money, but that money is for your household.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Let's be real about this thing. Let's be real. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want your wife to have to go and downsize and from the life that she's used to living and you have made her accustomed to because it's your money, now to having to say, oh, baby, I'm sorry. No, we gonna eat peanut butter sandwiches for a week. Because that's your money.
Yourself, man. I had peanut butter and sandwich yesterday, man. What you talking about?
And that's okay, brother. But I'm just saying, if they was eating filet mignon at first and now they eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, they might not like that. And so I hope I gave you that clarity, though. Just all jokes aside, because I joke a lot. But I hope I gave you that clarity. It's a difficult conversation to have, but it's one that has to be had. I try to level with them. I try to understand first. I ask certain questions. Some people call them pain points or trigger points. I'm going to ask the things that nobody might not want to ask. I have the uncomfortable conversation because guess what? That's the only way that progress can begin to take place. By having those conversations, by saying, hey, I get it, brother. You earned that paycheck. But I'm sitting down with your wife and I see two little beautiful girls running over there playing in the corner. Hey, this is bigger than the paycheck that you earned. And rightfully so, you earned it. But I think we can both agree that you would want them to be taken care of if daddy goes out to that job at 7 a.m. and he doesn't come back at 4:30. Can we both agree with that? Yeah, Q, I can agree with that. Got you. So let me show you why this is important. Why are we doing this? Okay. We sit down, we're going to go over budget, like I said, and we're going to get to the nitty gritty,
Okay, Pierre Bayak. I hope I said that right. Any recommendation, resource books, blogs, Facebook group, or apps for learning about finances and all the different aspects? That's on you, sir. What are you going to say about that?
Man, I love this question.
Oh, yeah.
Pierre. So look, man, I'm one of those guys that, man, if you check my Audible right now, I probably got, I'm not even going to throw out a number, countless books. And I'm going to just give you a couple. And this is kind of going to go back to what Dr. Kit was asking about when you had that conversation about the person saying my money is mine. But let's just start here. First book I would recommend is by Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. Okay. Next book I'm going to recommend is by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And the third book I'm going to recommend is Simon Sinek, Start with Why. Pause. Goes back to the question that Dr. Kid just asked a little while ago. Those people that say my money is my money, these are our kids. Why should I pay for this to go towards that? If this is my money. Start with why. Before I do anything in my life, and we even talked about this a little last time when I was on the podcast, when you wake up in the morning, you give God thanks, you come from an attitude of gratitude, but it's deeper than that though, right? Like that's the foundation. True, and that's important. But after that, what am I doing? Why am I getting up every day? Why am I sitting down with these couples, with these singles individuals, with all of these different people, with these business owners? Why am I doing this? Why am I going to these community events and shaking hands and meeting different people from every arena of life, from a trash man to a CEO? I don't care. I have a passion for people and I want to help people. That's my why. Now, the why gets deeper, right? The why is because I want to be able to give my wife the best life. You know, she's my main why, in addition to God creating me, of course, for his glory. Why do you want to give your wife a better life? Because she deserves it. Why? Because I love her. Why? Because she means the world to me. Why? Because she gives me her all. Why? Because she deserves the best. Why? I can keep going on and on.
Keep going on.
Because she's my everything. Why?
Yes, sir.
Because she was there for me when I had $28 to my name. That's why. And so, and when you do that, and oh man, this is gonna get deep. And I also have another one by Dean Grandiose. I can't think of the name of that one, but in the book on Start With Why, Simon Sinek, he talks about that. And after you say that, and most people, when you ask yourself that question 7 times, eventually that answer should bring tears to your eyes, because it starts getting deeper. Why am I doing this? What's the purpose of me doing that? What's the end game? What's going to take place at the end of the day? Is this worth it? And that, my friend, is life-changing for me. The why is the most important reason why you're waking up in the morning. It's even a why in that question. Why are you waking up in the morning? Why? Ask yourself that. And this is something that people may have heard or they may not have heard before. But you got to ask yourself that, because if not, you just end up doing anything. This is famous quote, Dr. Kidd. I know you've heard this before. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. That's why. What was that question that just popped up? Did you see it?
Yeah. Go ahead and read that, man. Take it. Say a lot of your examples of, or of men getting insurance. Is it not as important for women to become insured?
I'm not sure when you came in and joined the podcast, my friend, but if you heard what I said earlier, I sit down with singles, married couples, everybody. So I gave an example actually earlier about, look, if I'm sitting down with somebody single, I sit down with tons of single mothers. So they may not have caught that part, but let me clarify. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, undecided on what you want to be. If I can help you, I'm going to help you. It's important for everybody to have coverage. And I'm so passionate about it for that very reason. A lot of the times, and what you find is, oh man, and thank you for that, because I'm about to go in. A lot of the times what you find is you'll have a person that's in a situation that is a single mother. Guess what? She's got 2 or 3 kids. And the same conversation that I'm having with both of the individuals there, I have it with her. Hey, look, God forbid if you don't come home, I'm going to ask the tough questions. Who is the number one person that you trust that you know isn't going to blow this money that we're putting in place today to not only take care of your final expenses, but to make sure that your kids are good for the years to come until they can start developing the skills and stuff for them to perform on their own and grow and create a life for them and themselves and their kids to come and all that good stuff. Let's get a little bit deeper from a biblical standpoint. Proverbs 13:22, right? What does that say? A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. But we can use that and really make that unisexual. You know, let's be real about it, okay? Let's be real about it. So I just want to be clear on this. This isn't just for man, but the main reason to answer her question, the reason why I was focused on man is because a lot of the times, and most of the time, the man is the breadwinner in the relationship. So if his income is affected by leaving and not coming back, then the wife is going to suffer greatly. But it can be opposite roles. If the woman's income, it doesn't matter who I'm sitting down with. I want to give them the same value each and every time. Thank you. Great question.
Great question. Listen, I got a couple of questions, but let me ask you this one here first. I know way back, I don't know if it maybe still be the same right now, though.
Okay.
That for the same amount of coverage at the same age, say a 25-year-old female, 25-year-old male, one, a $500,000 coverage. It used to be, and it might still be, that the woman would, her monthly, premium or whatever they call it, would be less than the men. And back then they would say it's because of job hazards, they would call that. But now women are doing the same kind of work like men.
I love this
Listen,
stuff.
they're in construction, they're in destruction, they're all kind of structure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But has that changed though? Has that changed any?
No, absolutely. So check it out. That's a great question. I love these questions, y'all. Y'all keep them coming. Yes, absolutely. So let me give clarity on something. When you look at men's prices and women's prices, and I don't remember the person that came up with that last question. That was a great question.
I'm asking this question because of that question.
Right, exactly. And this is going to tie into that question. So we all on the same page. It goes by this, what you call a mortality rate. I sat down with a woman earlier today, and she was about 42 years old, I want to say. Her mortality rate is at 81. So what that's saying is most people, statistically, half and half, you're going to pass at the age of 81 if you're a woman. But guess what? Women's rates are always lower than men's. Just a fun fact when it comes to insurance. Why? Because they have a better mortality rate than men. If the young lady that I sit down with earlier and helped, if her mortality rate said 81 and she was 40 years old, give or take, the man's mortality rate might say 76, 79.
Right.
And so I hope they gave you clarity. But yeah, it's not based off of necessarily job hazard, but women, they just get better rates because they live longer. Absolutely. Great question, Doc.
All right. Okay. All right. Listen, Ellen G. Oh, she's out there. I'm already in my 60s. Would you recommend life insurance?
Absolutely, Miss Ellen G. And let me tell you why. I just helped. Oh man. I say on a monthly basis, I help probably, I'm a downplay and say at least 5 people that's over the age of 60 every month. I've helped a person that was 79 years old. Matter of fact, this was in January of 2021. A lady had dementia. And I got a call. I was in church 3 months ago from her granddaughter that she had passed. And so, yes, if you're 60, definitely have something in place. And the main reason why, and I can't stress this enough, Miss Ellen G, is to not leave your loved ones a financial burden, but it's just the right thing to do for your family, taking that load off of them, that burden off of them. So yes, and get something in place that's going to be permanent and not change, budget wise, that's going to work out. And look, my contact info is listed. I know they've already listed as well. Feel free to reach out anytime with any questions. Go ahead, Doc. Please address.
Yeah. So, oh, my mind. Oh, hey, Betty. Please address planning for funeral expenses. Many plan for life, but not for death. Oh, Betty's really pushing one out there right now.
Yes, I love it.
Go ahead.
I love it. So let's kind of clear. Oh, perfect example.
Thanks, Betty.
So going, yes, thank you, Miss Betty. So going back to what Ellen G said, right? The reason why that would be a final expense policy that I would recommend for her, and this is a perfect example. When I say final expense, let me just kind of clarify that people, a lot of the older generation, they might use the terminology burial costs, right, or final expenses, or burial expenses. All that simply means is it's just enough money to take care and not leave your family a bill that's going to cover the casket, the plot, and the funeral. And on average, that's about going to be anywhere from 10 to 15,000. I say minimum, you can get away with having 10,000 if you're cremated, but average cost of a funeral is going to come out to around 15,000. It just depends on how deep they want to go with all they want the family needs and stuff like that. Final expenses is just as important as income replacement because it goes back to doing the right thing for your family, making sure that you're not leaving them a bill. Anything else is just an added plus and icing on the cake. But 15,000 can get the job done easily. $15,000 final expense, especially if a person is over the age of 55. Even if they got a family, that's actually one of the things I do is say, hey, look, lock in something for final expenses and then use the term for the income replacement.
Okay. Man. So let me ask you this now, before you got to get up and get out of here. Listen, yes, sir. This person who's LNG said, listen, I'm in my 60s. Now, would you recommend term insurance or whole life at that point? At what point does it make sense for you to recommend one kind of insurance over the other?
So going back to what I just said, right? So If a person's over the age of, especially over the age of like 55, you need something that's locked in that's not going to change. I would recommend a permanent life insurance policy, which can be defined as a whole life policy or even a universal life policy. But I typically really lean more towards whole life because once you get approved and you're paying that premium, it's never going to change on you. Whole life, especially if you're up in age 60, whole life is the way to go. The only reason why a person may recommend putting something like term or something along those lines in place is because they might still have debt that they need to be covered, certain assets that they need to be covered, or certain liabilities that they need to be covered. Like, let's say that they still have about $50,000 left on their home or $120,000 left on their home, whatever the case is. Then they might need a term just to cover that for that duration of time. But besides that, definitely permanent policies is the way to go. And when I say permanent, I'm talking about whole life.
Whole life. Now, can they have a whole life? And I'm hoping I'm using the right kind of wording here. Can you have a home life, say, but with a term life rider?
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Yes, and we do those every day. Because this is the thing, depending on what company you're with, you have different options, right?
Okay, all right.
We're able to actually cover an individual and have riders attached to the policy to give the person more coverage, and that can a lot of times be an economical route that they use to save money, so they're not paying the full price for that whole life policy, that permanent policy that I mentioned. So absolutely, riders are a blessing. The only thing I will say is just when it comes to riders, that's only gonna excuse me. Let's say a person has kids, they might have their kids attached on their policy as riders. The kid are always covered as long as the person has that policy. If something happens to that person, those kids will need their own policies after a while. And with riders, over time, they will go up.
Yeah. All right. Ronnie White. Wow, that's slamming me, Dr. Ken. No. Thank you so much for this conversation.
God. Thank you,
listen, Betty. Betty, we can't do this without you, Betty, and all the others who show you give us those wonderful questions. Hey, Mr. Q, I know. Listen, man. I know you're a busy man, and we did say we're going to grab you for as long as we can, and I think we just about come out of that time frame now because I know, folks, Mr. Q, he's got another engagement right now, and we don't want to rob the other people because he's got some great information that he wants to share with them, just like he shared with us. So listen, man, I'm so glad that you were able to make it. You only gave us 2 out of the 3 areas. So we might get you to come back, because this money thing here, it's a lot. It can create a lot of problems for folks, So I'm so glad to know that you took your time out to come and just educate us and inform us and position us to have a better insight in how to utilize our money in our closing days, because we're all going to get there.
Yeah,
having insurance is not going to make us die any sooner. It's like having a burial plot not going to make us die any sooner. Say
that again, because people need to hear that. That's another thing.
The burial plot's not going to make you die any sooner.
Don't think you're going to wish death upon your life by putting and being proactive and putting coverage in place. What you're doing is being just what I just said, proactive. You're not attracting anything to you, but your family will thank you later. Trust me. All jokes aside, they will.
Yeah. I said it because sometimes people think if you make a will, you're gonna die.
Have mercy. Have mercy.
You're not gonna die. So no. Listen, Mr. Q, though, in all seriousness, man, I really thank you. I really want you to go ahead and just deliver what you got. You're the mailman. You got to deliver. Thank you so much, LNG. Great information. I appreciate that. And we want you to go and deliver. Betty Malone, I thank God for a young man. Be blessed.
Thank you, Miss Betty. God bless you.
Yeah. So just go ahead, man. And again, listen, we'll get back in touch with you. All right. So be good, man. Thank you so much for those of you who were out there listening tonight, and I certainly want to thank those of you who made your comments and who asked those great questions, LNG and some others, and Betty Malone and others. Thank you so much. And this is what makes this show such a wonderful show. Okay. But listen, I'm going to close it out now. But before we close it out, I just want to again recognize the people in Southern California. I watched the news this evening, and people are like knee deep in mud. You hear what I said? Knee deep in mud. And they were trying to slog their way through that thing. And man, it was no joke. So we want to keep them in our prayers. And also the folks in Hawaii, we want to keep them. Several hundreds of, I think on the news, have not been accounted for. So I want to, just think about them too. There are wildfires. We have people in Canada who listen to this, so there are wildfires, like about, I think, don't quote me now, I'm thinking like maybe a couple of hundred wildfires burning in Canada. And now there's wildfires up in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm just trying to wonder what's going on. And, it's just a lot. So listen, let me just have a 10-second word of prayer for these people, because they're all God's people. We're all God's people, and we really need to be our brother's keepers. Father God, I just want to thank you. There's an old gospel song that says, by the 5 blind boys of Alabama, it said, it could have been me in a wheelchair, no feet. Could have been me trying to get across the street, Lord, but it could have been us in the fire, not accounted for. It could have been us, lost our homes in California due to the hurricane, Lord. It could have been somebody else somewhere else, Lord, but it could have been, but it's not. So we need to be mindful of those that are going through this. So help us to be our brother's keeper. Thank you so much. We'll see you all again next week, same time, 6 p.m., Lord. But before we go, I just want to say, listen, thank you for being on the Shake Up. If you'd like to be on the show, okay, to be considered for future, just email my team at Dr. Kit Speaks, and we will get you there. You don't have to be on camera. We'd like to be on camera. And this is not you talking about laundry. We're talking about you talking about your experience, who you are, and how you come to be who you are. And whatever it is you want to share, whatever you want to share, it's never right. It's never wrong. It just is. Okay. So do that. And of course, we want you to like, follow, and share and subscribe, so that we can continue to be on the air in a viable way and meet a whole lot of people. And then finally, September 24th, in the big ATL, they call it Little New York, or New York of the South, the 24th, we're going to be talking about the Rest Stop. This is the part of our tour, the Rest Stop, refueling your relationship in Atlanta. My wife and I will be slamming you with some stuff down there. Some you've heard, but you've not heard it this way, because we're going to be reframing some things, okay? So go to my website, and you got the information will be there for you to take care of your business. Listen, we want to see everybody that's listening, everybody that's out there, share this stuff so that they can get it too. We want you to be in Atlanta so that you can be a part of this, all right? So do that for us. You will do that for everybody else that's listening and need to be online and need to be at the conference. Okay, so thank you very much. Be blessed, and we'll see you next week, 6 p.m. Central Time, for the Shake Up with Dr. Kit. Be blessed. All right, bye-bye.